Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we are looking at the final round of day number 1 of the Toronto VGC Regional Championships. Again, taking a look at Regulation H content before we get back into those tournaments full swing here in the fall. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this game between two very storied players here. We have Marco Silva, one of the most successful players of this generation, and Wolfe Glick. Oh, a little bit of a refresh. And we get a look at Wolfe's team first. Our Chaladon, Kingdra, Incineroar, Politoed, Gothitelle, and Among Us. We have Perish Trap, folks. Our Chaladon here with the power, Protect, Electro Shot, Flash Cannon, Dragon Pulse with the Terra Electric to boost up that Electro Shot. Kingdra with Swift Swim to take advantage of Politoed's Drizzle with the Life Orb, Terra Stellar to get some additional damage out, Protect, Draco Meteor, Weather Ball, and Muddy Water. Incineroar with the Terra Ghost, avoiding other Fake Out, Safety Goggles, Fake Out, Knockoff, Parting Shot, and Protect. Notably no Flare Blitz here, opting for that Protect instead. Politoed with the leftovers, Terra Grass to avoid any grass or electric weaknesses, Protect, Weather Ball, Perish Song, and Encore. Perish Song, Encore, Protect, a very solid trio with Weather Ball for additional damage. Gothitelle here, the linchpin of this strategy with the Citrus Berry, Terra Dark, Shadow Tag for the ability, Protect, Psychic, Fake Out, and Trick Room. Shadow Tag keeps people locked into the field, and then Among Us to round things out with the Eject Button, Terra Fairy, Regenerator, Protect, Rage Powder, Spore, and Pollen Buff. If you will notice, every single one of Wolfe's Pokemon has Protect. This is incredibly key in a Perish Trap team, as Wolfe has said himself, allowing him to stall out additional turns, wait for those opposing Pokemon to go down, and mitigate as much damage as possible. And we see there Perish Trap enthusiast. Wolfe Glick is I believe, quite frankly, the only successful Perish Trap player in the world. Has at this point won multiple tournaments with Perish Trap, and as far as I know, is the only player to have done so once, let alone multiple times. It is an incredibly impressive feat. Most of the time, this is something that's looked at as a gimmick, but Wolfe has been able to pilot it to absolute success. And coming into this round, both of these players are undefeated. So whoever wins this game will be, I believe, the sole undefeated player going to day number 2. And again, of course, up against Marco Silva, who before this tournament, when both were prepping, came up against Wolfie in on the ladder while on stream, and said the viral Wolfie Con Perish line, and it has been rather popular. But I hope we get a look at Marco's team in a second here, and we do. Ursaluna, Jumpluff, Charizard, Torkoal, Porygon 2, and Incineroar. We got to take a look at this earlier, but we'll give another rundown. Flame Orb, Ursaluna with the Guts, Terra Ghost, Headlong Rush, Facade, Earthquake, and Protect. This thing hits hard and hits a lot. Jumpluff with the Covert Cloak to avoid any flinches from Fake Outs, with the Terra Water, Sleep Powder, Sunny Day Tailwind, Rage Powder, and Chlorophyll to boost its speed in the sun. Speaking of the sun, we got Torkoal here. It does not have Intimidate. That thing has I'm blanking on it now. Drought, the ability to set the sun. With the Eject Pack, Terra Ghost, Fake Out, Flare Blitz, Knockoff, and Part. Okay, no, they swapped the Incineroar and the Torkoal. Didn't get through all of it. We've seen Marco's team before. It is an aggressive sun team that has the ability to go for a Trick Room option. Chlorophyll on that Jumpluff, along with Tailwind, can provide a lot of much needed speed. And then for the most part, hits like an absolute truck with the Ursaluna, with the Charizard, and even the Torkoal with that Eruption can hit pretty darn hard. Porygon 2 is a Trick Room setter for Marco. Incineroar is a utility piece as well, has some good options to pivot, but notably here in this matchup, Marco can get Sun set up, but if Torkoal gets trapped in, Politoed is able to switch in at some point. That will overwrite the Sun, and notably the only Pokemon on Marco's side that can switch non-manually without him having to press the buttons to switch is that Incineroar with Parting Shot. So if a Perish Song goes up and gets set up with Gothitelle still vibing and still feeling pretty healthy, that is almost going to guarantee at least one Pokemon goes down for Marco. And Wolfe, starting things off aggressively here with the Gothitelle and Kingdra, Marco Silva bringing the Jumpluff and the Torkoal. So notably, this Jumpluff has Chlorophyll here, so it could get Tailwind set up or could go for some other supporting moves. Torkoal not feeling too bad here. It does have to be wary of the Fake Out from Gothitelle, and of course, there could very well be a Politoed in the back that will turn this Kingdra active very quickly. Swift Swim plus Life Orb plus water, plus the rain will allow for some incredibly powerful water type attacks, including Weather Ball, including Muddy Water from this Kingdra. So right now, Marco does not just have to contend with the potential Perish Trap side of this team, but also with the aggressive damage and the pressure that Kingdra can put on. We see Gothitelle switch out, Politoed comes in. Marco Silva cannot switch out either of these Pokemon that are currently on the field, so I'm very interested to see what his options are. We do see a Terastallization here. I believe this is coming out of Wolf. Okay, it is. So Kingdra going for that Terra Stellar here, getting as much damage out on this initial attack as possible. I would imagine that this is going to be it's a Draco Meteor, in fact. So I think this will go into the Jump Bluff most likely. It does indeed no Focus Sash here, so Jump Bluff goes down in one shot. That -2 special attack drop does hurt from this Kingdra, but it's still going to be able to do quite a lot of damage with that Terra Stellar, with the Rain boost, with a potential Muddy Water. Now, Overheat's going to come through. This is not going to do very much damage to either of these Pokemon. Politoed takes out like an absolute champ, and it's going to basically get healed up by this Leftovers here. Eject Pack does switch Torkoal out. This is another way that Marco can potentially work around that Shadow Tag ability, but now that it is already used, Torkoal is going to have a much harder time. Now, this is another thing to keep in mind when you are playing up against Perish Trap teams and when you are playing a Perish Trap team. The second you can get your opponent down to 2 single Pokemon left, if you have more Pokemon and you can guarantee Perish Song gets set up, you can guarantee a victory of your own. Right now, Wolf has the speed advantage. Politoed is feeling rather tanky. Ursaluna does get that Flame Orb active, and we could see Torkoal switch in right now to overwrite the rain. I don't know if this is the spot where Wolf wants to try to click Perish Song, but notably, this will mitigate a lot of Kingdra's damage and probably force Wolf a little bit on the back foot. Torkoal makes its way back out onto the battlefield. Both of these Pokemon do take super effective damage from Muddy Water, but again, with that -2 special attack on the Kingdra and with the Sun up, I don't know that that is going to be an incredibly effective move for Wolf to click here. Now, Politoed has some other options. We do have Weather Ball here. It's not nothing. But otherwise it is fairly supportive all the way around. Perish Song could force some switches, or at the very least, if Wolf goes for Perish Song on the Politoed and switches the Kingdra out into Gothitelle, that will guarantee that these Pokemon will stay in for at least a little while. Gothitelle can get a Fake out as well as a Protect, and then hopefully survive another turn, and that might just guarantee Wolf a couple of Perish Song KOs. We do see the swap out. Kingdra goes back into the ball, and Gothitelle makes its way on to the battlefield, and Wolf is actually going to go ahead and withdraw the Politoed, not going for that Perish Song, and bringing in Pokemon number 4, which is Incineroar. Getting an Intimidate down onto that Ursaluna doesn't do all that much after that Guts trigger, but it could be a long con here, coming back for some long-term success. Torkoal does actually get to switch out here, and Charizard makes its way onto the battlefield. So, big thing there, Gothitelle Shadow Tag does not proc until after Gothitelle is already in, and we do see the Earthquake come through that does a lot of damage onto the Incineroar, but just manages to survive it, and Gothitelle makes its way back out onto the battlefield. So double Fake Out active now for Wolf. Notably, Ursaluna is going to continue to take chip damage, as is the Charizard from its Solar Power ability. Wolf can switch in Politoed here at any time. We saw that it was incredibly tanky before, and at -1, this Ursaluna isn't going to be able to do all that much to it. The thing that Wolf has to worry about, though, is that either of Marco's Pokemon could switch into that Torkoal, which would be pretty tough to deal with. The question becomes for Wolf, where are you going to click that Fake Out button, and when is Perish Song going to come into play, if at all? That's always going to be in the back of both of these players' minds right now. We do see the Terastallization coming through for Marco. We already saw that it's going to be on that Ursaluna going into Terra Ghost, making sure that it's going to be able to attack this turn no matter what. Fake Out does not matter for this Ursaluna right now. This could, of course, lead into a knockoff from Wolf into that slot. It wouldn't knock off a Flame Orb, but it would still be super effective Ghost type, or super effective Dark type damage into the Ghost type. Gothitelle does go for Protect. I'm interested to see what the Incineroar goes for. It's going to be Air Slash into Incineroar first, though no Fake Out from the Incin, and Incineroar goes down, evening up the Pokemon count. Ursaluna is going to go for Earthquake. It's not going to do anything to any Pokemon on this battlefield, and we are going to see a little bit more damage coming out from the burn and from the Solar Power. So, additional chip damage on both of Marco's Pokemon here, and Wolf has an opportunity to bring in another Pokemon. We could see the Politoed, but it is going to be the Kingdra instead. So Wolf is in a spot where Gothitelle is still alive, but has taken a decent amount of damage. I don't know if Wolf would ever feel safe going for Perish Song, and seeing that Kingdra comes in tells me that he needs to win this game through damage. Kingdra does still have that Terrastellar Muddy Water active, and I believe unless Marco wants to swap out this Ursaluna, Politoed will be able to get Rain up, and I don't think Marco is in a spot where swapping out Ursaluna is going to be very effective. Kingdra with a Draco Meteor onto Charizard should be enough to take it out, and I don't know that Charizard Air Slash is going to do nearly enough to this Kingdra. Now, if Marco decides to stay in with both Pokemon, Wolfe brings in Politoed, gets the Rain set up, and hits a Muddy Water. That could be all she wrote for this game number 1. And we do indeed see that Politoed make its way onto the battlefield. We see the Drizzle come through. Rain is active. This is going to make Kingdra incredibly speedy. Muddy Water does miss somebody. It misses the Charizard. I don't know. That could be pretty big here. This is going to do some good damage to the Ursaluna, but since it's not super effective, it doesn't take it down. Ursaluna down to just 20 HP. Kingdra does lose a little bit more HP due to the Life Orb, and Politoed takes an Air Slash incredibly well. Facade comes through. Where's it going? Into the Kingdra, and Kingdra goes down. This game is not over yet. Politoed going to get a little bit more recovery off of the leftovers. Ursaluna going to take a little bit more burn damage, but I don't know if it's going to be enough for it to go down. It shouldn't be. We see the leftovers recovery. Politoed is going to stay rather tanky, and now Wolfe cannot set up Rain again. That is going to guarantee that Sun can get set up the next time Torkoal makes its way onto the battlefield. Notably, Ursaluna is going to go down to the Flame Orb on the next turn, or whenever its next turn ending on the battlefield may be. I think this is a pretty clear spot for Wolfe to have to assume there is a chance that Marco could swap out this Ursaluna, try to get it another turn later when it's not having to worry about the Rain on the battlefield, and Torkoal or Charizard can provide additional pressure with the Drought being set up. Charizard right now is still locked into Air Slash. It does a decent amount of damage. We know it can do quite a bit into the Gothitelle. It doesn't do quite as much into the Politoed though, and notably, Politoed can still get some good damage out. We are going to see the Ursaluna swap out. That's going to bring Torkoal back in. Solar Power is back again active for Charizard, but we could very well see Fake Out from this Gothitelle into the Charizard. I think if you're Wolfe, that might be a pretty clear read. Yeah, Charizard not going to get to move on this turn. And now, what is Politoed going to do? We see the Weather Ball here. This is going to be a Fire type Weather Ball. How much damage is it going to do into the Charizard? Not very much. So, Solar Power is going to chip it down a little bit more. Charizard not feeling too great here. I think if you are Wolfe, the game is not over yet. Politoed is incredibly tanky, and it's not like Gothitelle will do no damage. As long as Gothitelle doesn't get one shot from this spot, she should be able to put in a decent amount of work. Eruption is the thing that you are probably scared of the most. You're just not going to be able to click air. You have to click Air Slash if you are Marco. And I think that is just the worst move right now, really, for this Charizard, unless you were hoping for some critical hits. Wolfe goes for the Protect on the Politoed, notably, not going for any additional damage right now. And the Air Slash goes into it. So a little bit of damage mitigated. And what is the Gothitelle going to do? We see the Psychic come through. It looks like it's going into Charizard. That should be enough to take it out, but Gothitelle is going to have to take an Eruption from this Torkoal. It is going to be the only one taking it. It's going to be split because Politoed is also a target. Is this going to do enough damage? It should be. Torkoal Eruption does a lot. Yeah, Gothitelle goes down, doesn't get a chance for the Citrus Berry to proc. And now Wolfe is in a spot where Torkoal can keep clicking Eruption. It's probably its best move as well. Ursaluna is going to make its way back out onto the battlefield. It does have Protect, so we're in a little bit of some mind games here. I think Politoed does. If I don't remember. I don't know if Politoed has Encore. I don't think it does. But Politoed can still potentially win this. The question is, okay, Weather Ball comes through, Ursaluna does not Protect, and that is a KO'd Ursaluna. How much damage is this Torkoal going to do to Politoed? Is it going to be enough? And is Politoed going to be able to do enough damage back with just Weather Balls is the question. Eruption comes through. What are we going to see here? This is the big question. It does about a quarter. Politoed is going to be able to keep recovering a decent amount of that with the leftovers, and Wolfe also being able to click Protect isn't going to be able to heal everything up from this Politoed, but is going to be able to heal quite a bit, and there's only 2 more turns of Sun left. So Wolfe can stall out 1 more turn of Sun with the Protect, let leftovers heal up a little bit more. 1 more turn of Sun. We know that the Eruption, unless it's a really big critical hit in a high roll, shouldn't take it out, as well as Politoed additionally being able to do some damage into this Torkoal. So I honestly think Wolfe is in a good spot here. Marco needs to get a crit, find out some other way to do some damage, because right now he is in a pretty rough spot where he's going to have to start clicking Overheat at some point, which can miss. It'll lower your special attack, and I don't know if it'll do enough damage here. So both these moves, not very effective. I think Eruption is simply what you have to click here. Hope that there is not a Protect out of Wolf and that you can get some critical hits. But no, we see the Protect come through from the Politoed. That's going to guarantee another turn of Leftovers recovery. It's going to wipe out one more turn of Sun. Marco's going to have one more opportunity to get as full a power Eruption as he possibly can. And then he's going to have to start not only clicking overheats, but hoping for some critical hits. Politoed not quite at where it was before that previous Eruption, but wherever, as close as it's going to get. So again, and I also don't think there's also the option where Marco could try to stall out time, but even a couple of attacks from this Politoed, I think are going to be more than enough to win this. I don't think Marco can stall for enough turns here. I guess technically Marco could click Protect on the next turn, I think would be the best bet. Like you go for Eruption here, maybe even Overheat. Would Overheat do more damage? I don't know. And then it looks like that is Marco's win plan. Try to stall out, keep Torkoal nice and healthy, or as healthy as possible. We see the Weather Ball come in. How much damage is this going to do is the big question. It does about 36. We see the Eruption come through. It's going to be a little bit less damage than before. That does quite a bit. Politoed down to about a quarter of its HP, and the Sun is gone. Leftovers recovery in. I don't think Eruption will KO from this spot, but I think I don't think Eruption is going to KO from this spot if Politoed goes for another Weather Ball right now. Because now it's not going to be resisted anymore from Marco. It is going to be neutral damage. It's going to be a normal type attack. So do you go for Overheat here if you are Marco? I think you go for either Overheat or Protect. If you can protect if you get a couple of turns of Protect through, I think Marco can win this game on time. Doesn't always feel great, but you got to play to your outs. I don't know that Eruption is going to do enough. Marco probably has the calculations better, but if you get hit by Weather Ball here, Politoed does go for the Protect, so is instead going to restore a little bit of HP, I think. Okay, so smart now from Marco. You not only stall one more turn of Protect, but now, again, you can Protect as Torkoal to guarantee one more turn of time off the clock. Politoed gets a little bit more HP recovery, but is not going to be able to recover enough HP to win the long game. I think, Marco gets 2 more turns. A Protect here, or maybe you have to click Overheat. If you click Overheat and it hits, or if you, I guess you cannot risk Overheat missing. I think if you are Marco is the question. If you click Protect, Politoed can also Protect. Politoed can Protect on the next turn, but the Leftovers recovery will not be enough. So if you Protect on this turn, Weather Ball comes through. Marco did not click Protect here. Weather Ball takes Torkoal down to 115 HP. Eruption comes through. How much damage is it going to do? Politoed goes back down to a quarter of its health, but it is not nearly enough. Leftovers recovery kicks in one more time, bringing Politoed up to about a third of its HP. The game is not over yet. Looks like, maybe 2 more turns. Okay, yes, 2 more turns. All right, Marco has one more Eruption in his pocket. I think Overheat does more damage at this point, and I think if you go for Protect here, you can stall out one more turn. Politoed goes for Protect again from Wolf, healing up one more time. I don't think Marco is going for that time win condition anymore. I think there is a chance that could have been what he needed, but Politoed healing up just a little bit one more time. Marco now going to have to start clicking Overheats here, or again, a Protect of his own, stalling out the timer. Just is not looking for that. Is not trying to look for a time win at this point. Eruption one more time, if you so choose. Or I guess Marco did go for the overkill on the previous one. But yeah, no, I think if you are Marco, if you click Protect, going for the Eruption one more time. Weather Ball comes through from the Politoed. Takes Torkoal down to 90 HP. Slowly but surely, Wolf is chipping away, and this Eruption just is not doing nearly enough to the Politoed. It's doing less and less every single turn. Leftovers recovery one more time. Politoed back up to a little below a third. Marco still at half HP. Overheat is going to be the move to click. I feel like, am I crazy? All right, somebody tell me in the comments. I feel like I'm insane. Does Marco not win on time? Is that not how that works anymore? I feel crazy. I feel like that would just be the way to go. But alas, Marco goes for the Overheat one more time here. Politoed gets a little bit more Leftovers recovery. And slowly but surely, we tick away to what is almost guaranteed, I feel like, to be a Wolf victory at this point. There are 46 seconds left. Marco goes for the overheat one more time here. Again, I think this should do a little bit more damage than the eruption did, but Weather Ball comes through. It's going to take Torkoal down to 60 HP. Now it's down to about a third. Overheat comes through. This is going to do a decent amount. Yeah, it takes Politoed down into the red. I feel like overheats here could have really done a lot. You know, again, you might have been relying on a critical hit, but again, I feel like if you go for it earlier, I don't know, you're missing out on the special attack. But if you're going to try to go for the damage, I feel like you have to do that earlier. Now overheat is going to get progressively weaker. Again, you can keep hoping for that critical hit. You can keep hoping for the hit. You might as well have hit, helping hand there. Wolf is going for the protect. So Politoed sitting strong. Once again, overheat comes through right into that protect spot. Wolfe Glick is going to get another Weather Ball off on the next turn, and I think that will tip the HP scales in Wolf's favor. We have just a couple turns left of this match overall. It's going to end one way or another. Marco, though, keeping it rolling, keeping it moving. Overheat into that Politoed. Weather Ball once again, same moves, same deal. Torkoal goes down to 33 HP. It's not going to go down on the next turn, but I believe it will on the turn after. Politoed back into the red with that overheat, still staying alive. This leftovers recovery being an absolutely massive boon. So again, Politoed will need to protect to stay alive on this next turn. Marco going for a protect of his own. Wolf matching that, both players matching protects here. And Marco, I don't know if Marco was just trying to play the mind game with Wolf or what, but continuously clicking those eruptions and into what you would assume were protects. Wolf just playing it incredibly stable. Marco, I feel like was taking some risks. You're never going to PP stall out protect, but I don't know. You got one more turn of overheat, but after that, you are going to be struggling for the rest of the game here. And again, at this point, you no longer have the HP advantage, and Marco is just gonna have to slowly consider what his options are going into game number 2 here. Encore comes out from the Politoed finally. Actually, I guess, you know what? Never mind. I am a fool. Politoed does indeed have Encore. Torkoal could never have protected or helping handed, because it wouldn't have been able to move at all ever again. But alas, this is the end of it all here. This is the last turn, one way or another. We are going to see Marco inevitably go for protector, just stall out the timer, get some additional thinking done, and Wolf is going to do very much the same. We didn't see Perish trap really at all. The Shadow Tech from the Gothitelle did provide a little bit of utility, but the Kingdra here did quite a lot of work. And so coming into this last turn here, or well, not quite this last turn, but 2 minutes until the battle ends. I don't know. I feel like Marco maybe could have stalled this out. I think that is the big thing, but we will wait inevitably until the game is well and truly over. But I think if you're Marco, I think your goal might have been to stall out time until you were able to maybe potentially win out on an HP advantage going into those final few turns. But stayed pretty noble, played things out, but the battle is over, and Marco Silva forcibly concedes game number 1, putting Wolfe Glick up 1-0. So again, a very slow game, very plodding towards the end there, but felt quite inevitable. Maybe there was a way that Marco could have won it out on time, but I doubt it overall. So coming in to game number 2, if you are Marco, I think I couldn't tell if Marco was incredibly nervous about Perish Trap or if he was just trying to play the game, not think of it too much. But coming into this, definitely has to be aware of that Kingdra, and definitely has to be aware of just how tanky this Politoed is. So let's go ahead and get into game number 2. Wolf with the same lead of the Kingdra and the Gothitelle, and Marco Silva changing it up a little bit with the Jumpluff and the Porygon 2. So Jumpluff still a supportive Pokemon here. Porygon 2, though, can set up Trick Room. So if this Kingdra does get super speedy, which is quite possible for a Wolf, getting that Trick Room set up will make sure it moves last. Unfortunately, that then means you have to worry about the Porygon 2, the Gothitelle, and whatever else Wolf has in the back. Or not the Porygon 2, the Politoed, the Gothitelle, and whatever else Wolf has in the back. We saw the Incineroar previously, could cause quite a few problems. And this time we see the Kingdra switch out first. Incineroar makes its way on to the battlefield here. Gothitelle could be going for Fake Out into the Porygon 2. Notably, Jumpluff is unaffected by it thanks to that Covert Cloak, preventing all those additional effects. Sleep Powder goes into the Incineroar, but hits the safety goggles instead. Psychic notably comes through into the jump love, taking down about a third of its HP, and Porygon 2 gets Trick Room set up. Now, Jumpluff was faster than the Gothitelle here. Gothitelle is going to be able to get out a little bit more damage, and notably Wolfe does not have to worry, or well, Wolfe saw the Incineroar on Marco's side did not come in, might not have to worry about that, so feels a little bit freer to set off these Psychics. And now notably Wolfe has an Incineroar of his own, has the option to fake out, knock off, Parting Shot, the likes. Parting Shot comes through, comes in onto the Porygon 2. Notably the Incineroar is the slowest thing on the battlefield, so Parting Shot, Incineroar is going to swap out. What are we going to see come into this slot? I imagine it's going to be Pokemon number 4. What is behind that door? Politoed. No surprises there. Gothitelle staying on the battlefield. Are we going to see now a safety goggles, or I'm sorry, a sleep powder again into that Incineroar slot, anticipating this? Porygon 2 does go for the Terra Blast. It is going to be a normal type attack, and Politoed again tanks like an absolute champ. Sleep Powder comes through, and it misses the Gothitelle. I don't know if that is... Ooh, okay. Obviously, hitting that is going to be good. It's going to guarantee that the Gothitelle cannot move for the next turn. However, even if the Gothitelle is asleep, I don't know that that is going to be too much of a problem if this Politoed can still get Perish Song set up. Neither of these Pokemon on Marco's side can do a lot of damage right now. So if you're a Wolfe, I don't think you feel too bad about setting up a Perish Song right now when you're up against a Porygon 2 and a Jumpluff, even if your Gothitelle does go to sleep. Now, that being said, this makes Wolfe's position a lot easier. Politoed can go for a potential Perish Song. Gothitelle can get some additional damage out. I'm interested to see how the speed tiers work under Trick Room between the Gothitelle and the Politoed. We see a Terastallization coming through. This is coming from Wolfe's side here, and Politoed keep going for that Terra Grass. Yep, and that's going to guarantee that it will not be going to sleep thanks to this Sleep Powder. So Wolfe, again, keeping 2 more supportive Pokemon on the battlefield. There's not going to be an Eject Pack. There's no Parting Shot to switch them out. We do see the Terra Blast coming through again from the Porygon 2. Again, not doing all that much damage into the Politoed, and we see that Perish Song coming out now. So Gothitelle could be going for Psychic, could be going for something like an Encore or anything else. Sleep Powder comes through. It does not affect the opposing Politoed, even if it would have hit. And Gothitelle uses a Trick Room of her own, resetting the speed. Jumpluff is going to be the fastest thing on the field, but Politoed is going to get to move before the Porygon 2 now. That could be pretty important here. We could see Encore from Politoed into the Jumpluff, and we're going to start seeing these Perish counters fall. This is a good turn for Wolfe to just go for that double Protect, I think. But again, he is the master of this team and could simply decide to switch some things out. If Gothitelle goes for Protect, you switch into Incineroar, then I think you feel all right. You can go for a Fake Out into the Jumpluff on the next turn. You're not too worried about the Porygon 2. And then you swap back into the Politoed on the next turn, taking the Gothitelle out to make sure that you mitigate any damage to it. You get 2 Pokemon KO'd, and then on the next turn, you can potentially bring in more. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see. So Wolfe swaps out the Politoed, and I believe we're going to see the Incineroar. Incineroar makes its way on to the battlefield. Fake Out pressure is reapplied. Are we going to see Protect from the Gothitelle to make sure that it both doesn't go down to any critical hits and it does not go to sleep? We are. Protect comes through, and if you are Marco Silva, there's just about nothing relevant you can do. You can hit the Incineroar with a Terra Blast, you can Sleep Powder, and it's not going to matter into either of these Pokemon. So Porygon 2 goes instead for the Ice Beam, trying to get a little bit of additional damage onto that Grass-type Politoed, but does not do anything to the Incineroar. Now, Incineroar can go for the Fake Out into the Porygon 2. Jumpluff can still potentially get a Sleep onto the Gothitelle. Again, I don't think that that is going to matter all that much. Additional damage onto the Gothitelle would have been nice if you were this Porygon 2 trying to chip it down, but this thing has Citrus Berry and it is tanky. I don't think Porygon 2 is going to be taking it down one way or another. So if you are Marco Silva, you have to try to figure out what you can do with your 2 Pokemon on the battlefield to set them up for success. Wolfe now goes for the swap here, bringing in Politoed once again, not actually leaving Gothitelle on the battlefield. But I imagine what we could see now with the Sleep Powder coming through, it's going to be going on to either of these and not affecting them. Porygon 2 gets to use Ice Beam, but we know Incineroar is the slowest thing on the field, and we could see Parting Shot to bring the Gothitelle back in. This is a phenomenal game. Wolfe is playing masterfully here. To be fair, Marco really can't do much. I think this is an issue with Marco chose a couple of leads that he felt might be able to pressure Wolfe into some sort of switch. But again, when you're up against this Gothitelle, it becomes so much harder. And when you have 2 Pokemon on the field that just can't do damage, Gothitelle is not going down, and that gives Wolfe prime real estate to start this Perish Trap going. Notably, Wolfe was also able to swap both of his Pokemon out. Neither of them are going to be going down to Perish Song. And then again, Wolfe will have 4 Pokemon to Marco's 2. Will potentially be able to set up a Perish Song again in Marco's face. Get the Politoed out of there, get the Gothitelle out of there, and get the win in this game number 2. All Wolfe has to do, you get double protect here, you get maybe some additional, whatever you want, Wolfe, whatever you want. Politoed can protect here, make sure that it doesn't get hit by an Ice Beam. Gothitelle can switch out into Incineroar to guarantee that there is no sleep that comes through once again. That will give Incineroar an ability to provide fake out pressure, but no, Wolfe goes for what will be, I imagine, a double protect here. Sunny Day actually comes through from the jump left. The Politoed is not protecting. I'm very intrigued by this. Politoed goes for the Encore. I see. Encore into the Porygon 2, just guaranteeing that it cannot set up a potential Trick Room or anything. Ice Beam does come through. This is going to do some decent, never mind, that didn't do any damage into the Politoed. This thing is insanely tanky. But again, it is a Porygon 2 that is attacking. So both the Perish counters fall to 0, and now Marco Silva is in a very, very difficult 2v4. We saw no Incineroar in the back. I remember seeing the Ursaluna Blood Moon, or I'm not sorry, the regular Ursaluna, and then the Charizard is in the back as well. There's potentially a world where Marco can get a flinch from the Charizard. You also have the opportunity that Air Slash is going to be super effective, and if your fire type moves are going to be super effective into this Politoed. So if you are Wolfe, you do still have to make sure that Politoed survives the long enough to get a Perish Song up. And right now you don't have a fake out pressure applied. You can go for protect on the Politoed, swap the Gothitelle out, bring Incineroar in, make sure you get a fake out onto the Charizard, and then potentially go for the Perish Song on the next turn. Or at the same time, if you are Wolfe, you're in a 4v2, you might just be able to outright win in damage. Ursaluna and Charizard are both rather strong, but you're not going to be able to, again, you're not going to be able to have the rain set up right away. Incineroar does make its way onto the battlefield. It is going to be susceptible to a headlong rush, and Air Slash could do quite a bit of work against the rest of Wolfe's team here. Charizard is still going to be rather strong, at least for this turn, and Air Slash damage is not going to be mitigated by the rain once the Politoed comes back in. Earthquake comes through. It doesn't affect the Charizard. This should take out the Incineroar from what we saw last time, and does a little bit of damage into the Gothitelle. So Incineroar goes down. That is an Intimidate onto the Ursaluna, but Guts is going to trigger now on this turn. Psychic comes through from the Gothitelle, getting a good chunk of damage onto the Ursaluna. We are going to see that burn and solar power chip damage come through. That said, I think we're in a spot where Wolfe can send in Kingdra, and then, yes, send in Kingdra, swap Gothitelle out for the Politoed, and then you have Kingdra just being able to click Muddy Water, and that might just be all she wrote here. Muddy Water along with that Terra Stellar, or even Draco Meteor along with the Terra Stellar, could be more than enough to take this game home for Wolfe without even having to finish up with the Perish Shop. That's always super interesting. I like seeing when players get creative. Wolfe saw the line, saw that there were 2 very vulnerable Pokemon on the battlefield, and actually goes for a Protect here on the Kingdra, not swapping in the Politoed yet, maybe trying to let the Ooh, I see. So Wolfe, again, takes note of the burn damage that the Ursaluna is taking, and takes note of the solar power damage that the Charizard is taking, and wants to max that out. Get as much chip damage onto these Pokemon as possible, so that when Wolfe does go on the offensive, the chances of him being able to get one-shots here is all that much higher. So both these Pokemon going to be put down to 2/3, a half HP, somewhere around there. Charizard maybe at 3/4 still. And now Wolfe is in a spot where, okay, do you attack with you just keep attacking with the Gothitelle? No, you swap it out. The Politoed is going to make its way back out on the battlefield, and Kingdra is going to get to go on the offensive. We haven't seen Wolfe Terrastalize yet. I don't think we've seen Marco Terrastalize yet either, actually. If my memory is correct, I don't think either of those early Pokemon went for that Terra. Ursaluna does go for Protect here, but Kingdra is now on the battlefield. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Wolfe didn't Terra. There's a Terrastalized Politoed right there. And we see the Weather Ball here, not even having to worry about the Muddy Water. Weather Ball comes through, takes out the Charizard in one very, very clean hit, and now Ursaluna is in a lot of trouble. Marco, of course, Marco can still Terrastalize. I don't believe Jump Left or Porygon 2 Terrastalized before, but Ursaluna could go for that Terra Ghost. Either way, I don't think it's going to have enough damage or enough time left to be able to take this to a game 3. If you are Marco, you're going to have to bank on some really, really powerful Earthquakes. And unfortunately, this Politoed, I believe, is going to be faster than you, going to be able to Encore you and lock you out. And Wolfe Glick, with Perish Trap goes undefeated in day number 1 at Toronto. That's a very fun set here, and you got to see not only in game 1 where Wolfe was able to recover after getting put on the back foot pretty early, but in game number 2, just latching on to the advantage of Marco making probably what is a little bit of a slip, sending into supportive Pokemon that aren't going to be able to do a lot of damage up against two very, very bulky Pokemon that are just going to be able to wait things out, set up that Perish Song, and wait for them to get KO'd. So a very fun set, a very masterfully piloted set. It's always very enjoyable to watch Wolfe play Perish Trap. But we'll get started on day number 2 of the Toronto Regional Championships tomorrow. And until next time, y'all, be safe, be smart, make wise decisions, and farewell.